Hello everyone, welcome back to Lonk's Takes. Today, we're going to be talking about how strong Cooler is from Dragon Ball Movie 5 and 6. I'm a big fan of Dokkan Battle, and with Cooler's revenge being the theme for the upcoming World Wide Celebration, I think it's a perfect time to talk about Frieza's brother. This video will be split into two sections, talking about how Cooler and Metal Cooler scale within the Dragon Ball universe and compare to other characters within Dragon Ball, and then discuss how he potentially scales in a crossverse sense, as in how strong he would be in comparison to other verses. Before I begin though, make sure to subscribe and maybe comment down below which character you'd like to see me do a scaling deep dive on next. Just like in my Vegeta vs Gogeta video, we cannot take any movie events as directly lining up with the events of canon unless they are shown or explained to be otherwise, as the films are stated to be other dimensions by Toriyama. However, Cooler and Cooler's Revenge and the events therein have been connected to canon multiple times in the Daizenshu. The first is that in the Daizenshu's timeline of events, it mentions two movies occurring, Garlic Jr. and Cooler's Revenge. The timeline mentions specific anime filler events like the Z-Fighters using the Pendulum Room during the Saiyan Saga, as well as the Garlic Jr. filler arc, meaning that at least going from this, Cooler's Revenge is actually canon to the Dragon Ball anime. This actually doesn't break canon in really any way, as it's placed just somewhere between Mecha Frieza's death and the arrival of the androids, a 3-year period in which nothing much happens besides training. In fact, the only contradictions that occur between it and canon is that Gohan's design is more early Namek than post-Namek, which is so minuscule, and Goku's aversion to going Super Saiyan, which is more so just for plot. Just look at Super Broly, where he seems to struggle to go blue after withholding the form for so long. Really just a writing trend in most of the Z movies, to be honest. With how almost all of Cooler's statements are comparisons to Frieza, despite this movie taking place both seemingly in the anime timeline and in a different dimension, it's safe to say that we can use canon Frieza instead of playing hardball and just saying Cooler movie Frieza has no confirmed power level or feats. Before we get to guidebooks, we can actually look directly at the movie for initial statements. After blasting Goku in the back and seeing him fire a ki blast afterwards, Cooler already believes that base Goku could have defeated Frieza. When they actually begin fighting, he says this again, seeing that Goku had lived up to the expectations as being strong enough to defeat Frieza. Given that he knows he has more transformations than Frieza, this means he's talking about Frieza's final form. Furthermore, given how candid Frieza is about how much power he's using, he literally tells Goku when he's at 50% that Cooler should have a pretty good idea that Frieza's maximum power level is around 120 million. Outside of this, Cooler is stated in the Daizenshu to be stronger than Frieza, and based on the creator of all the movies, Koyama, he would be stronger than Lord Slug, who is also stated to be stronger than Frieza in his movie pamphlet. If you follow this line of reasoning, then Cooler's base form should be stronger than 120 million, given how he can have a relatively even battle with a base Goku who should be stronger than Frieza at this point. Stacking a final form on top of that, Cooler effortlessly flies through what should be a Kaioken times 20 Kamehameha without taking any damage, meaning his power level at bare minimum should be above 2.4 billion. We know the high end, of course, as he's completely bodied by Super Saiyan Goku, whose power level at that point should be around 6 billion, or 50 times 120 million. I know a range of 4 billion sounds like a lot, but that's a pretty solid estimation for probably one of the last few characters whose power can be estimated within reason. Moving on to Metacooler, it's pretty safe to say that the first of his movies could be canon to the anime. This movie really has no possible way or argument to be reasonably placed. Still, it's safe to say that this film should be connected in a direct sequel to the first one. Upon immediately seeing base Goku, Cooler thinks that Goku's power has grown considerably. This means that base Goku had just gotten a lot stronger by an unquantifiable amount, or that Goku has become a lot stronger than his Super Saiyan self from the previous movie. In either scenario, given how a single Metal Cooler is stated to rival Goku and Vegeta's power level, it's safe to say that the Metal Coolers are now significantly exceed either 6 billion or 300 billion, given how strong base Goku is. Now, of course, you can arbitrarily assign a wide array of numbers to say how much considerably means, but for the sake of remaining as honest as possible, consider these as two benchmarks for a lowball. Interestingly, Xenoverse 2 says that Metal Cooler's power level is 10 billion, and while it's not canon to the movie, maybe we're on the right track, as that falls, well, relatively within the range I just established. However, the unique part about Cooler is the fact that he can generate many bodies at once that are all equal in power. We have only been given two potential numbers for how many coolers that he actually made. The Funimation dub says 1,000, while the literal title of the Japanese version of the movie says a whopping 10 billion. If we take this 10 billion absolutely literally, then the combined cooler's power level would be 60 quintillion, or 3 sextillion. Going with more reasonable and less hyperbolic, 1,000 gives us a range from 6 trillion to 300 trillion. Beyond comparing Cooler to how he was before, it's pretty difficult to compare his strength to the characters in canon post-Namek. Due to power levels being dropped after Namek, we have very little in the way to quantify how much stronger characters get after Zenkais and power-ups that are not ever given a value. However, as we can go into the crossverse scaling, we might be able to compare the movies to canon in a crossverse sense rather than an inverse way. With a power level of 530,000, Frieza was able to perform a dwarf star level feat. Dividing this by the bare minimum power level of 2.4 billion that Cooler has, Cooler's attack potency should be casually 4,500, give or take, times larger than this. This would put him at large star level in attack potency, which is actually implied with the massive explosion of light given off by his supernova at the end of the movie, which completely dwarfs the sun in size many times over, but somehow doesn't destroy it. Anyways, even with giving Metacooler the benefit of the doubt and saying he's actually 50 times stronger than Super Saiyan Goku he had just fought in the previous movie, this would be a large star range, which is just a testament to how absolutely gigantic some stars in our universe are. Now, if every single one of the 10 billion coolers hypothetically pooled their energy together into one single attack with their combined power level, they would just barely manage to scrape into solar system level. So personally, I think both Cooler and Metal Cooler get as far as the androids before they face a serious issue. I think someone like Android 17 is a bit stronger than an individual Metal Cooler and would never get tired, and could literally eventually tear through all of them. Despite Cooler being able to regenerate stronger than before, I didn't really think it would cause him to perform any better feats, as he's never really showed any drastic power increase from regenerating from any wounds. Anyone stronger than that begins to approach a level of power where they should be strong enough to one-shot individual Metacoolers with ease to the point where they could pretty easily annihilate the entire army, 1,000 or 10 billion. While I've skipped speed, I think it's pretty obvious that both coolers would just be somewhere either within the FTL Plus or MFTL Plus speeds, depending on whichever Dragon Ball speed meta you want to go with. The one thing I want to debunk is the idea that Metal Cooler has infinite speed or something like that, which people say is because he was able to grab Goku out of instant transmission. However, he is simply using instant transmission as well. And in the movies, instant transmission works by literally moving to a separate dimension, physically moving to your end destination, and teleporting back into the dimension you started in, but in a new location. So there you have it. Cooler and Metacooler should be significantly stronger than their brother, and Metacooler could even hold his own against some characters in the Android saga with large star level strength. Do you think I highballed him? Lowballed him? Let me know. But that's all from me. See ya.